New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And good morning, dear ones. Rev Robert with you here on a Saturday morning. It's 9 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone, and that means it is time for our Saturday morning Science of Mind conversation series. If you've been with us before, you know we do this every Saturday morning, 9 o'clock Mountain Time. Or if you're over in Europe, let's see, it's 10:30 in Geneva. No, it's 5 o'clock in Geneva. There we go. Good morning, Fiona. Good to see you, dear one. Glad you're with us. Shay, glad you're here. Good to see you, dear one. Thanks for being with us. Anyone else that's watching, please feel free to chime along, chat along, share your thoughts, or ask comments, ask questions in the comment box as we go along. And today's focus is on the Law of Attraction, Chapter 18 from the Science of Mind text, pages 294 through 307. However, before we get there, I want to say a big quick thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, religious science practitioner, who was with us last week and held down the fort, as it were, on the topic of mental equivalence. So thank you for that, Dr. Tracy. Glad you're a part of what we're doing here as well. And next week will be Reverend Victoria, and she will, I had the topic, what was it? What the Mystics have taught, which is a favorite chapter of mine. But that's next week. This week, we're doing the Law of Attraction, page 294, chapter 18 in this book, The Science of Mind by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Yo, folks, before we get started today, I want to thank everyone for being a part of what we're doing here. Hey, there's Roy. Good morning, Roy. We've got a Colorado contingency going on here this morning. I love it. Anyway, before we get started today, I do want to say, raise up a dear friend in prayer. You may or may not know, but our dear friend, Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, has been going through some health experiences recently, and he was originally scheduled to share this chapter and talk about this talk and facilitates today's conversation. However, he is still going through those health experiences and felt that it just wasn't able to do that. So I'm here in his place this morning. And please join me as we mentally and emotionally raise up Reverend Dr. Raymond in a healing prayer for his life, for his experience, for his body temple. Ohio checking in. Hello there, Reverend Michael. Good to see you as well, sir. Glad you're with us. Hope you enjoy today's conversation as well. All right. The Law of Attraction. Who here has not heard of the Law of Attraction? Please raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't see any hands go up. But because the Law of Attraction has been made into, well, a lot of stuff, right? It's close to 20 years ago that The Secret came out, or just about 20 years ago, I think, which was based on the Law of Attraction. There's lots of books out there on the Law of Attraction. Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks, they do a lot on the Law of Attraction, and it's nothing all that new. people have been talking about the law of attraction all the way back, and Holmes was no different in page 18. He broke it into a number of sections: thought atmosphere, attraction of personality, attracting friends, attracting success, no failures, no personal responsibility, and the law of correspondence. So we've got a lot to cover today. It seems like it's not an awful lot, 12 or 13 pages here. But there's a lot of really, really rich information in this, and I'm gonna zip through the first half of the chapter, as it were, because I believe the really important, the really powerful, oh my gosh, underlining almost every sentence, happens a little bit farther back in the chapter, especially around the section called "No Failures." We're gonna get to that though. So let's start. Let's start right in. On page 294, in the second paragraph, Holmes writes, we are either attracting or repelling. We are either attracting or repelling. And I want everybody to remember that, because that's not just when we're reading the book. That is every second of every moment of our lives. So every time someone shares something with us, and our response is, oh, no, that can't be, or oh, no, that's not how it works, oh, no, we're pushing away information that's going to be important to us, or we're pushing away an experience that's going to be important to us. Now, there is such a thing as a positive no, and I want everybody to understand that, an empowered no. Sometimes no is a complete sentence. And what I want us to remember is, when we're saying no to something, we're actually saying yes to something else. So we are attracting. However, a lot of people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, have a tendency to repel their good, to repel the things that are coming into their lives that are good for them. So we're going to look out for those as we go throughout our conversation here this morning. Now, over on page 295, in the top paragraph, by the activity of our thought, things come into our life, and we're limited only because we have not known the truth. Now, here, Holmes uses the capital T, truth, which in the Science of Mind vernacular denotes a divine experience, the divine aspect of truth, not the human truth, the divine truth. By the activity of our thoughts, things come into our life, and we are limited only because we have not known the truth. And we want to remember, the truth is, you are a divine expression of God. The truth is, there is an abundance of everything necessary on this planet to fulfill our individual life's mission and soul's purpose. The truth is, you are perfect. The truth is, there is enough. The human truth, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, that never works out for me, all of those things, those are the limitations that we place upon us. So what we call into our lives, the activity of our thought, pulls or attracts things into our lives, and the only limit to what we may attract is where we don't agree with or embody the truth. Drop down just a little bit in the next paragraph. There is no power in the universe but ourselves that can free us. Someone may help us on the road to realization, but sustainability and permanence can only come through the consciousness of our own life and thought. You know, if you've been following along this year, if you're if you regularly attend our Saturday morning conversations, I imagine by now you were starting to sound a little redundant, because Holmes, throughout this book, hammers into our minds the reminder that we control our thoughts, and thoughts become things. That we control our thoughts, and what we think about, we bring about. So the law of attraction really is nothing more than another way to describe the universal principle of co-creation. What we put into the universe, what we think about, what we hold near and dear, must in some form manifest in, around, and as our lives for that is the divine principle. There's no power in the universe but ourselves that can free us. Any limitation we may feel, any not enoughness, any stuckness, we have the ability to free ourselves from that experience simply by changing our thoughts. One must bring themselves to the place in mind where there is no misfortune, no calamity, no accident, no trouble, no confusion, where there is nothing but plenty, peace, power, life, and truth. We should definitely daily declare the truth about ourselves, realizing that there is a we are reflecting our statements into consciousness, and that they will be operated upon by it. Must daily declare the truth. This is why our prayer times, 8:15 a.m. and p.m., are so incredibly important. Not because we just get together and practice the steps of treatment, but because we are daily reminding ourselves and using this power, this process, to remind ourselves of the perfection of our lives, not the limitations, but the abundance and the perfection. Over on 296, to reduce the whole thing to its simplest form, whatever one reflects into mind tends to take form. Now, he also uses the capital M mind there. So it's not what's reflecting into our human mind. It's the image that we're putting into the divine mind and reflecting into the divine mind. And that word tends, I think, is incredibly important. Tends to take form. Because as we'll learn in a little bit here, we also have not only the power to create and control the conditions of our life, but we have the power and the process of denying that truth as well. So we can say we believe something without really believing it. Have you ever done that? Don't raise your hand. We've all done that. We've all said one thing knowing that or believing that wasn't possible. And this is one of the hang-ups I think people find in New Thought, specifically in religious science, is that as we teach people to use affirmations. I am abundant, I am prosperous. However, if our human mind is fighting against those truths, if our human mind is trying to prove that the small t truth is more real than the capital T truth, I am abundant. Yeah, but you don't know how many bills I have. I am prosperous. Yeah, but you don't know how little I'm making. I'm healthy. Yeah, but you don't know what ailments I have. When the human mind attempts to argue with the divine mind, well, guess what? The universe says, okay, let's try that on for size. The divine principle says, yeah, let's go there. When I first came into this philosophy, and it wasn't all that long before the movie The Secret came out, there was a definitive teaching, I believe, that taught new students how to get stuff, how to get things. Princes, parking spots, palaces, get the heart, get the car, get the house, get the new lover. And when we stop at that point, when we stop right there, then I think we do ourselves a disservice, because we stay trapped in the materialistic aspect of this. Now, those that stick around the philosophy, and I'll tell you, over my 20 plus years now in this movement, I've watched plenty of people come in the door, figure out the law of attraction, get a few things into their life, and then they're gone. And they, oh, I fixed that. Oh, I solved that. Oh, I healed that. And then they're gone. And what I know is, let's come back, what the mind tends to. So without practice, well, the mind atrophies. For those that have been athletes or are into exercise, if you stop going to the gym, guess what happens? If you stop going to yoga, guess what happens? The muscles become weaker. We forget how to use them. We forget the patterns. We forget we will forget, and it becomes harder and harder the longer we stay away from a practice to come back to it. So for those that get a healing and then go back to their lives, that's not what this is about. The science of mind at its very core is a faith, a philosophy, and a way of life. It is a way of life, and we must live that life day to day to day, every moment. Let's say a couple of good mornings. Good morning, Dr. Tracy. Those yeah, but beliefs exactly trap us every time. Every time we argue for our limitations, we get more of the limitations. Good morning, Victoria. We were sharing that you'll be with us next week, speaking about what the mystics have taught. Very grateful that you're with us as well, Rev. Daily affirming the truth. Yes, Shay. And Fiona shares an important point. During prayer, I use the creative process and the metaphysical law of attraction to bring into form a wholeness of being. That's what it's about. That's the faith, philosophy, and way of life, to bring in a wholeness of being. On 298, paragraph 3, Holmes writes, one of the first things to do is to love everybody. If you have not done this, begin to do so at once. I know it can be tough. There are people, I had one this morning. I had a trigger this morning. I was scrolling through Facebook and someone was sharing something, a celebration that my human ego doesn't believe they deserve. Not in a place of love. And so I recognized that. I realized that. And what did I do? I turned to prayer. I turned back into my prayer practice and I said, okay, I have to love this person as well. Now, sometimes I don't have to love their behavior, but I do have to love that they're on the planet and who they are. Because what I believe is that when we love more and people feel more loved, their behavior aligns with truth rather than aligning with the yeah buts. Rather than lining up with the limitations, our behavior will change. Given enough love, everybody's behavior changes. We see that everywhere. There's always more good than bad in people, and seeing the good tends to bring it forth. Love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the very reason for our being, and that explains why it is that people should have something or someone to love. A life that has not loved has not lived. It is still dead. Love is the sole impulse for creation, and the one who does not have love as the greatest incentive in their life has never developed the real creative instinct. No one can swing out into the universe without love, for the whole universe is based upon it. All we need is love. Yeah, don't make me sing, please. Don't let me sing. All we need is love. So who are you loving today? And not just the people that maybe share the house you live in or the people that are part of your group, but where are we consciously sending vibrations of love to those that perhaps we don't agree with? Yeah, I'm thinking about politicians. Pick your favorite or your least favorite politician and send them some love today. At the bottom of the page. It is the law that the one who sees what they want to see, regardless of what appears, will someday experience in the outer what they have faithfully seen in the within. From selfish reasons alone, If from no loftier reason we cannot afford to find fault, to hate, or even to hold in mind anything against any living soul, the God of love cannot hear the prayer of one who fails to love. The divine, the universe cannot hear the prayer of the one who fails to love. This is why what I call manipulative prayer doesn't work. Pray for my husband to stop cheating on me. Pray for my child to get better grade, to do this, to do that. If we come from that place that says, what I'm experiencing is anything less than perfect, we're not in a loving place. We're not loving what is. Hey, there might be a book title in there, huh? Loving what is. Again, the behavior sometimes may not go along with what I think is the perfect way for things to be. And yet so often, and if I started counting all the experiences I have had over the last 20 years, over the last year, where things didn't go exactly the way I thought they should, and yet turned out perfectly, we'd be here all day. We cannot afford to find fault, to hate, or even to hold in mind anything against any living soul. So I have to do my work. When that post popped up on Facebook this morning, and my mind went to, they don't deserve that. That's not the truth of who they are. That's not loving. And that's not what is. What is what they were sharing, whether I agree with it or not. All right. Let's jump all the way over to page 301, top of the page. So if we're going to get to a place of loving everyone, if we're going to get to that place of knowing and trusting and realizing the universe hears our prayer because we are loving everyone, Holmes writes, we must be specific in what we do while at the same time never outlining how it should be done. Remember, we are dealing with intelligence. It is going to evolve our concept exactly as we involve it. Now, this is important stuff. All right. We focus on the what and let the universal oneness take care of the how. Be specific in what we want without outlining how it happens. I want a new car in my life. And I'm going to pray that when I go to the dealership this morning, the dealer is going to have an epiphany and is going to give me more money for my trade-in than I think than it seems to be worth. And the dealer is going to not try to not make the best deal for himself, but is going to try to make the best deal for me because they're going to fall in love with me. And I'm going to walk away with a great car at a great price. That's outlining. That's what we're not going to do. We have to be in that open, receptive place where we know we are attracting into our lives everything that is necessary for the complete and total fulfillment of our life's mission and the vision on our soul's vision. We must be specific in what we do while at the same time never outlining how it shall be done. It is going to evolve our concept exactly as we involve it. Now, that comes from a term that Holmes uses called involution. So I want to, and we talk about this in classes, and I want to touch on it briefly. It's a quite deep topic, but we know what evolution is, right? Evolution is the outpicturing. Evolution is the next step in a process taking humanity from back when we were living in caves and eating berries to when we were into what we're becoming. And we now have even AI, artificial intelligence. I find it interesting that we're now concerned with artificial intelligence, but we spend very little time focusing on the UI, universal intelligence, because the divine one is intelligent. So let's go back. Evolution versus involution. In the glossary of this book, page 603, Holmes defines involution, invoking the law. Now, remember, law is that universal power that moves everything. Law on page 605 is defined as mind in action. So, invoking the mind in action and setting that mind in action into motion, doing something with it, right? So we're invoking, giving a mental and spiritual treatment, planting the seed of thought in the creative mind of the universe. Involution precedes evolution, and evolution follows involution with mathematical certainty. We deal with the creative principle of involution and evolution. Involution is the creation of the concept. Evolution is the time or process it takes for the concept to become manifest. This is why when we think a bad thought about someone, it doesn't immediately happen. Because number one, our thoughts tend to take form. And number two is there is a process, there is a time between the involution and the evolution. Between the point where I say, this is the belief I am professing, and we see the demonstration of the belief. The principle of involution is the creation of the concept. Evolution is the time or process it takes for the concept to become manifest. Involution is a conscious act. Evolution is purely mechanical. If it's going to evolve our concept it is going to evolve our concept exactly as we involve it. Pulling up a comment from earlier. My apologies. So we have to involve. We have to use this process of affirmative treatment, of spiritual mind treatment in our lives, moment by moment, day by day, every experience, every opportunity that comes our way. A little farther down on 301, we live in mind, capital M mind, so divine mind, and it can return to us only what we think into it. It can return to us only what we think into it. So if you don't believe that you're worthy of something, or if you don't believe you're talented enough, or if you don't believe that it's possible, it isn't possible. It can't happen. There is no one that can save us from our own thinking. There is no one that will give us what we don't believe is possible, can happen. Yes, Michael. In the science of mind and spirit, there's both the mind science, metaphysics, and the mysticism, the power and the presence. And that's why next week, Reverend Victoria is going to talk about what the mystics have taught. Right? We're so deep into this book at this point. If you've been with us all year and following along every Saturday, we are deep into our understanding of how the universe works and how we are an intimate part of it, a necessary, vital part of the universe, and how we can shape how the law returns back to us, opportunities, experiences, connections, all of it. Great question, Fiona. In the universal process of becoming, is there a distinction between involution and evolution, or is it inherently an infinite loop? Truthfully, I don't know, because I'm still on the planet. In the human experience, it would appear that involution and evolution is an infinite loop. Now, I imagine there are those that get to a point where they sort of check out and don't want to be involved with life near their end of their life, perhaps, maybe in the middle of their lives. I'm not sure. And I guess it is an infinite loop as long as we keep it moving. But we do have the power to say, yeah, I'm done, and stick our head in the sand and pretend like we don't know this stuff, and it'll stop. If we're not involving the universal law, we won't grow, we won't evolve, we'll get stagnant, and we'll get stuck where we are. And so if someone comes to us, I said, I don't know, because I'm still alive. I'm still on the planet. I don't know if that continues into the greater dimensions of living beyond the human dimension of living. And it would appear that the only way to stop this loop would be to consciously withdraw from life. But I believe that as long as we're living, we get those flashes, we get those moments, we get those hits, the calling, whatever, the intuitive moment that says, hey, check this out, or hey, learn about that, or hey, Jay, over here. And if we choose to involve involution, if we choose to invoke, look at all the words we have for this. If we choose to involve ourselves in those processes, then our life is going to change. Our life is going to grow. Our life is going to evolve. So right there on page 301, it is done. Holmes uses the quote from the Bible, "It is done unto you as you believe." And he follows that up by saying, God has given us a power and we must use it. Now, remember, Holmes uses a lot of different words for the universal oneness, for the universal power. God, at Buddha, Allah, Vishnu, Kuan Yin, Source Energy. You've heard me use all these names. There's a million names out there for God. So if a word or a name doesn't quite align with your understanding, well, then change it, translate it. The universe has given us a power and we must use it. We can do more towards saving the world by proving this law than by any charity has ever given to it. Remember, the one is the silent power behind all things, always ready to pour into our experience that which we need. We must have a receptive and positive faith in the evidence of things not seen with the physical eye, but which are eternal in the heavens. And that is the very definition of faith. Positive faith in the evidence of things not seen. We have faith in the things not seen, in the beyond the physical. That's what metaphysics means, beyond the physical. So we have to look beyond the physical demonstration, because that is the evolution. That's the end result. My hair is going a little gray. That's the end result. Let's see if we can use the power of mind to turn this hair back to brown, then maybe even back to blonde. Remember, God is the silent power behind all things, always ready to pour into our experience that which is necessary. See, when Holmes shares the word that what we need, it isn't the human sense of, well, I need more clothes, or I need a faster car, or I need I need a new lawnmower, or I need to go to the store. What we're talking about is what is necessary. There are a lot of things out in the world that just aren't necessary in my life. It is not necessary to have 4 basketballs in my garage. I don't know how many are out there at the moment or not. Right? It's not necessary to have a closet full of clothes when I wear I haven't worn a suit or a shirt or a pair of slacks for a year or more. It's not necessary for all that stuff. What I really believe the law of attraction is about is coming to a place of recognizing that which is necessary comes into my life as it is necessary. And so as one item in my world might die or end its use of service, I'm thinking about a washing machine that's sitting out in my garage that has a bigger capacity than the one in the house that we're in. And so a few weeks back, we swapped out those washing machines just to find out the one that has the bigger capacity Hadn't been used in enough time that the computer died and it won't run. But what's necessary is that I have a way to clean my clothes, and that's here. Following? Everything necessary comes into our life. We must have a receptive and positive faith in the evidence of things not seen with the physical eye, but which are eternal in the heavens. All is mind, capital M, divine mind. And we must provide a receptive avenue for it as it passes out through us into the outer expression of our affairs. If we allow the world's opinions to control our thinking, then that will be our demonstration. We must provide a receptive avenue. So, abundance, prosperity. I want more money in my life. It's necessary for there to be more money in my life to pay the bills, to share, to give to other ministries, to do the things we want to do, to have the fun we want to have. We must provide a receptive avenue through which that belief can pour forth into the world. So if I'm hoarding every penny, if I'm sitting on every dollar, if I'm not actively giving to the ministries that I'm aligned with, then there's no need for more money to come into my life. Everything necessary comes into our lives exactly as necessary and in exacting measure. If we allow the world's opinions to control our thinking, then that will be our demonstration. For those living in America right now, I can't tell you how many times I keep hearing the news telling us we're being separated. We're living in a world of division, that there's this camp and that camp. No, we are one human family. Do we have different perspectives and opinions? Yes. Are we divided as as a country? No. We are still the United States. Are we divided as a species? No. We all still live on planet Earth. We are all still human. Well, unless, of course, there's some alien bloodstock going around that I don't know about. Sorry, joking. Over on 302. Come to know that no matter what others may say, think, or do, you are a success now, and nothing can hinder you from accomplishing your good. All the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as though it were true. Don't listen to the news for what separates. Listen for the news that reminds us of our humanity, that reminds us of our oneness. Many in this room probably know every Friday night I do a half an hour of the good news here on New Thought Media Network, where we share those stories that remind us things are going right. People do good. I shared a story last night of a man in Madagascar that climbed 3 stories of the outside of a building to save puppies from a fire. The good news, the things that remind us that we are all here doing exactly what is necessary for the benefit of life, to evolve life. But we have to be involved with life in order for life to evolve. All right. So here it is. I'm on page 302 at the bottom of the page. The section is called No Failures. And if you spend an hour with this, what looks like maybe 10, I mean, it's not even 2.5 pages total. This will change your life, I believe. If one appears to have failed, we should realize that there are no failures in the universe. We should completely erase the idea of failure by stating that there are no failures. Now, in New Thought, you will hear people say things, and they will follow what they say. They'll say something that they don't like. Oh, I wish she would just go away. Oh, I didn't mean that. Erase, erase, erase. Cancel, cancel, cancel. That's close to how it works, but it's not complete. We have to be willing to let go of the original thought, and it's not just a one-time thought. It's the habitual thought in limitations, in lack, in failure. There is no failure in the world. And I want you to think back. Think back on your greatest, quote, failure in the world. How much did you learn from that? How much did you evolve from that? How much did you grow from that? Because what I know is when we experience something that appears or that we label as a failure, well, that it gives us the opportunity to get involved or to go and hide. Popular culture tells us to deny our failures, that they make us weak. Those experiences that don't go the way that I like or that I wanted them to, they always lead me to something greater. Always. I was in Las Vegas last week and we recorded a concert with Faith Rivera and in partnership with the Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living. And the live stream was not all that good. We had sound problems. And the live stream just wasn't that great. But I'll tell you this, I learned something. I learned, number one, I need to do a little bit more work on how I visit a location and set up sound. Number two, I learned that I can have a separate sound source through my cameras, and the audio on the camera sounds pretty darn good. So we didn't lose anything. There was no failure in that. There was just an opportunity to grow. On page 303, the one who wishes to make a demonstration must clear up their own subjective atmosphere. The reason being that the reason being that we may be objectively making statements which our subjective thoughts may be denying. In this way, we often neutralize the word as quickly as we say it. We're back to the yeah buts. This is true according to the law. So in the next paragraph, when Jesus said, resist not, he meant that non-recognition of evil is the only way to avoid it. This is true according to the laws of cause and effect. For what we persist in recognizing, we persist in holding place. That which we refuse to recognize, we neutralize, and it is no longer there so far as we are concerned. Now, it doesn't mean that it isn't happening in other people's lives if they continue to recognize it. Oh, the country is being separated in the red and the blue, and this and well, that's only true for you if you want to keep saying it. It's true for me if I keep saying it. But if I stop saying it and I start saying something else, that the country is coming to a greater understanding of multiple perspectives and being able to hold truth in a new way, it doesn't negate the experience that you're having, but it does put into motion, it puts into the law a new belief system that, if held in mind long enough, must in some form, shape, manifest. So we erase any idea of failure. Now, here is where it looks as if one were not telling the truth to themselves, but is declaring the truth about the spirit that indwells him. This spirit never fails. Affirm this until it is a very part of your being. And then he gives us what we're to affirm. So this is Holmes's prescription, if you will, practice for the day, if you will. Affirm this until it is the very part of your being. This word blots out from the book of my remembrance any sense of lack, limitation, want, or fear of failure. There is no failure, no person to fail. Failure is neither person, place, nor thing. It is a false thought and has no truth in it. It is a belief in lack, and there is no lack. It is a belief in limitation which does not exist. Now, it is a belief in lack, and there is no lack. It is a belief in limitation which does not exist. Imagine if you spent 5 minutes a day contemplating just these few sentences. The word, the prayer, your affirmative treatment blots out from the book of my remembrance any sense of lack, limitation, want, or fear of failure. There is no lack, there is no limitation, there is no want, there is no fear of failure. There is no failure, no person to fail. Failure is neither person, place, nor thing. It is a false thought and has no truth in it. And what are we here to do but to demonstrate truth? I believe, and I know there's plenty in the room that believe it as well. We are here to demonstrate the truth. What is the truth? We are divine expressions of the one. We are abundant. There is no lack, limitation in the world. We are absolutely perfect. We're loved. Shay's asking a question. Can I talk about denial and spiritual bypassing? They are not the same, and yes, I can. Because that's what the page 304 is all about. Thought is very subtle. At the very top, thought is very subtle, and sometimes when you are making such an affirmation, arguments will rise against it. Stop at once and meet those arguments. Refuse to accept them. We speak into our words the intelligence which we are, and backed by our greater intelligence of the universal mind, our word becomes a law into the thing for which it is spoken. There goes forth from this word the power of the infinite. In treatment, we teach what is called argumentative treatment. Now, argumentative treatment is the denial, and that's what many people call it as well, as a denial. Emma Curtis Hopkins wrote what are considered the great denial. There is no sin, sickness, or death is one of those. In treatment, and I have found this to be effective, treatment is a movement of consciousness. It is not a prescription. It is not written down as exacting words that we must say. It is not some magic spell, even though it sounds an awful lot like casting a spell. It is a movement of consciousness. It is a logical series of steps, reminding ourselves of the oneness that exists, of our inherent connection and expression of that oneness. And then our affirmation of the truth we desire to experience, the truth that we are knowing is ours and ours alone. And in that process, if we hear that little voice that says, yeah, right, if we hear the yeah, buts, then we must address that immediately, because otherwise it is the thought that leads the way. The words are the expression of the thought. The words don't come first. The thought comes first. So if the thought moves against what we're attempting, moves against the desired outcome, it moves against or pushes back or resists the words we are saying, we must stop and change our thinking right in that moment. And I have a great example of this. It's getting a little old, but I keep using it. A number of years back, there was a great commercial, and I think it was for the Geico insurance company. And it's a number of elderly women sitting around, and they're talking about how about the internet, Facebook, and other social media sites. And the one woman points out that she has all these pictures that she's posted on her wall, physical pictures of her family that she's posted and taped up onto the physical wall of her living room. And she's complaining that she's putting all these pictures on her wall, but nobody's talking to her, and she's not getting any connection. And one of the other women in the room looks at her and says, "That's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. Go search it out on YouTube. I'm sure it's still there. Well, my family and I have used that over the years to remind ourselves when we are buying into a limitation. Oh, you're not going to find a parking spot that easy. That's not how that works. That's not how it works. This is how it works. We state our truth. We state our belief. Okay. Roy, that's not how any of this works. Let's check in with Roy. I grew up in the Mormon faith, which believes that I, as a Native American, have a dark skin because God cursed me with a dark skin because I turned against God. Somehow I see a failure of some type in that type of belief. Am I correct? You are correct that that is a failure. I agree that is, in my opinion, religious persecution. That is religious abuse. And my mind just went, and can I love the Mormons anyway? That's a tough one for me. I spent 15 years living in Utah. Roy, no, you did not turn against God. And God did not abandon you. And the Mormon faith cannot save you. And this faith will not save you. Because number one, you don't need to be saved. There's nothing to be saved from. You are whole and complete and perfect the way you are. Your native skin color, your natural skin color is a part of who you are. And we encourage you to embrace that and celebrate that. No failure. And I am rapidly approaching what's supposed to be our end time. So let's keep moving, yes? Otherwise, I'm going over. All right, page 304. Treatment is a thing of itself. It is an entity of infinite intelligence, life, and action, and nothing can hinder its operation but unbelief or a lack of adequate mental equivalence. So the only thing that can hinder the demonstration of a prayer, of an affirmative spiritual mind treatment, is our own unbelief or a lack of adequate mental equivalent. Meaning, if you have no idea what it's like to drive a sports car, it's going to be really hard to believe that you can. If you've never handled money, it's going to be really hard to believe that you can. So we have to create mental equivalence. That means you go to the dealer and you test drive a sports car. It means that you go to the bank and write a big check to yourself. It means that you develop the habits and the belief systems that go along with what it is you desire. Never depend on people or say that things must come from this or that source. It makes no difference where things come from. Simply say that they are and let them come from where they may. This is the outlining versus the how and the what and the how. We focus on what, let the divine take care of the how. If something occurs which points to a place for them to come from, it is correct to say, if this is not the place, then there is nothing which can hinder. So you go to the bank and you ask for a loan and they say no. That's not the universe saying no. That is, go to another bank. Go to another place. Keep going until you believe. Not my Roy, not my failure, Reverend, God's failure. That belief puts God down, doesn't it? There is no failure in God. So I'm sorry if I've said something that created some confusion or miscommunication here, Roy. God's infallible as well. There is no failure in the mind of God. we interpret what's going on and label it as a failure. But that's not the truth of it. Back to page 304, near the bottom. Nothing moves but mind. God makes things through the direct act of becoming the things which God creates. This is what we do. For our thoughts becomes the thing thought of. The thought and the thing are one in result. What one has and what one is the result of the subjective state of our thoughts. This is important. You and you alone have the power to create your life. It's how we interpret it. It's how we define it. On page 305, I'm going to wrap this up very quickly here. Near the bottom, the responsibility of setting the law in motion is ours. But the responsibility of making it work is inherent in its own nature. It is our responsibility to set the law in motion, that creative law, the mind in action, the divine mind in action, God's mind taking form. It is our responsibility to set that law in motion, but it is the responsibility of the divine in its inherent nature to make it happen. It is the divine's nature to say yes. So, going into overtime, hang on, here we go, page 306. The law of correspondence. The limit of our ability to demonstrate depends on our ability to provide a mental equivalent of our desires. For the law of correspondence works from the belief to the thing, but it is within our power to provide a greater mental equivalent through the unfolding of consciousness, and this growth from within will finally lead to freedom. Here's the easiest way to do that. Take out your checkbook, write yourself a check for $100, and post it somewhere where you can see it. When you feel comfortable, go cash that check. Yes, Tracy, it is a rich chapter. I'm near done, but now you've cashed $100 check. You've created a mental equivalent. Could you do the same with $1,000? If you just said no, write yourself a check for $1,000 and post it on your computer and sit there and stare at it until you do, until you can cash that. We create a mental equivalent. We change our mental thinking to say, I can go cash that. Then go cash it. Once you've done it with $1,000, then do it with $10,000. Now you have to take action. You can't sit there and just expect the divine to put $10,000 in that bank account. You have to do the work that you were inspired to do that puts that money, that continues to put money in that account until you can cash a check for $10,000. And then when you do, you've had a new mental equivalent. I've cashed checks for $10,000. I've cashed checks for $10,000 that I've written, and I've cashed checks for $10,000 that other people have written. But I would never have received the contract, the opportunity to make a $10,000, to be given a $10,000 check, if I hadn't at first believed I was able to accept that, to cash that it can happen. What we demonstrate today, tomorrow, and the next is not as important as the tendency which our thought is taking. There's a great little book out there I want to talk about. It's called The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. A little book. Inside the book, there's 4 pages that are his 40-day process. And he gives us 10 affirmations, 10, even more than affirmations. And the objective is to write each of those for 40 days, each day, to copy down what's in the book and then journal about it for a minute or two or whatever. Well, 40 days just didn't seem like enough for me. And when I did it the first time after 40 days, yeah, I had some success. And then when I did it again a couple years later after 40 days, I had some success. But just like I talked about earlier, eventually I would put down the book and my consciousness would atrophy. I wasn't practicing. So one day I picked up the book and I said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I am now at day 1060 was today. 1060 days in a row of picking up that little book, copying a few sentences about prosperity, about consciousness around finances, around the consciousness of abundance and plenty. My life has never been the same. I got involved and my life evolved. I created a tendency, which my thought is taking. And now I don't worry about how many zeros are in front of the decimal on a check or in my bank account. I don't spend time concerned about where the money's going to come from or why there isn't enough or who's going to give me more or where this is going to come from. I focus on what? I focus on the vision. I focus on the deep calling to experience and express this philosophy in ways that serves humanity. And that may not be the same for you, or it may be close. Together, we're creating a world that works better for all, that works for all. The bottom of 306, as we contact the higher principle of our own lives, which is perfect and complete, needing nothing, wanting nothing, knowing everything, being happy and satisfied. And as we daily meditate upon this indwelling God, we shall acquire a greater mental equivalent. And what we've just learned is that if we increase the mental equivalent, we increase our capacity to receive and to express. 307. Nothing is real to us unless we make it real. Nothing can touch us unless we let it touch us. Refuse to have the feelings hurt. Refuse to receive anyone's condemnation. In the independence of our own mentality, believe and feel that you are wonderful. This is not conceit, it is the truth. What can be more wonderful than the manifestation of the awakened, of the infinite mind as your life? What can be more wonderful than the manifestation of the infinite mind as your life? Folks, you have within you everything you need to create the life you truly desire. And what I know is the science of mind helps us to understand that, helps us to embody that, and calls us to be that, to be a living demonstration of the law of attraction, and so much more. I know I've gone way long today, so I want to thank you for being with us. Please do stay tuned, stay involved, stay up to date with what's happening here on New Thought Media Network. If you don't know, we have a special event later this evening, 7 o'clock Mountain Time. The amazing Eddie Watkins Jr. is going to be hanging out in my living room, and we're going to turn and making music. We're going to turn on the cameras and let it flow. He posted a peek of his potential set list, and it looks like we're going to be here all night listening to good music. So plan to join us at 7 o'clock tonight here on our YouTube channel. Look for it on YouTube. We won't be broadcasting on Facebook because of music licensing and all that. So look for us on the YouTube channel. Eddie Watkins live in concert tonight from here in Arvada, Colorado. Again, I want to thank everyone that's been a part of this conversation, that's been here. Your comments are great, and please keep them coming. If you have something more in-depth you'd like to talk about, please send me an email, revbrz@ntmedia.org. That's REVBRZ at ntmedia.org, and we'll get in touch. I'll make sure that we get a chance to talk and say hello and answer any questions or look at any further concerns you might have in your life. Please do remember, next week, Reverend Victoria Bomberry will be with us, and we'll be taking a look at the next chapter, the summer, which starts what the mystics have taught. What am I looking at here? I'm in the wrong place. Next week, what the mystics have taught with Reverend Victoria Bomberry. I'm Rev Robert. I'm going to get out of here for now. I love you. I think you're amazing. I look forward to being with you again real soon. Until then, I want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.